Hello everyone, my name is John DeBartola from Revitalize Johnstown. I am here in the historic State Theater in downtown Johnstown with Eric, our theater manager.
I'm Eric Reighard. I'm the Executive Director of the Johnstown State Theater Foundation.
Eric has been threatening to give Joe Taranto and I a tour. Joe is our cameraman. We have popcorn, we're at the movies. I feel like Siskel and Ebert. You want to start the tour?
Sure. So where we're at right now is the entrance right off of Main Street. So So this part right where we're standing right now used to be the main lobby, and it was a vaudeville style theater. So the ticket booth was on the street, and you would get your tickets and come in. And right about where this started was where the seats would start. So you had seats that would go the whole way down, and we have the original program. They didn't have the number of seats when it opened in 1926, but we've heard
almost a century.
Yeah, so
100 years.
2026, when we want to be done, is we want to open up for like the centennial celebration of it.
Okay.
But long story short, there were about 1,000 seats down here. That would start here.
Beautiful tile work.
Yeah. So this is all original horsehair plaster. So these pendant lights still work. We just have to check the wiring and get some lights in them. The damage you see is just from the roof. So that's the first thing we're going to do is replace the roof, because in a lot of these old buildings, that's usually what goes first.
And 100 years old.
Yeah, your roof and your windows, when those go, you want to get those watertight so that way there's no more damage.
Let's walk around. We talk
Sure. Yeah, so
we have the historic lobby.
yeah, so this is the lobby. This floor is actually going to come out probably about April or May. This whole main floor will be the performing arts space. So we'll actually go back here.
So this is the concession area.
Yeah. When you come in, get your tickets and stuff, we recently just partnered with Coke.
We'll do it closer. You want to cut the sound.
Okay, so we partnered with Coke. So we got those
Coca-Cola.
floors. Yeah.
Okay.
So we were originally working with Pepsi, but then with our liquor license, nobody orders a Pepsi and Jack.
They want a rum and
so
Coke. They want a rum and
we're
Coke.
not
Rum and
Coke,
Coke.
so.
Okay.
So right where.
That's your new puppy. We'll put your puppy on
This is
the
Dolly. She is our latest addition. She is the assistant to the chief morale officer for the theater. So she comes and helps clean up the popcorn and stuff behind. So basically, right where this new drywall plasterwork starts would have been where the balcony would have shot up. So where we show movies and have concerts now is where the balcony is now. So that ceiling is going to stay. We're going to use it to match the the plasterwork, and then all of this is going to come out.
Right. And this is slated to happen by the end of the year.
So we're starting in April or May. So it's a
April
design.
or May of this year.
Yeah. So it's a design build. So there's design build and design bid build. And so the purpose of design build is because it's an old building. We're going to find a lot of crazy stuff here as we continue our way over.
Joe to make sure you can hear me.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Oh, you got us? Okay.
Yes.
So as we uncover more, demo more, if we find any structural issues or
Always a mess.
yeah, so environmental issues. We
This is because this will have to be fixed.
yes. So this
I almost
is,
want to get my
yes. So these are original speakeasy doors. These were fabricated here in Johnstown. So they've been hanging here for almost 100 years.
Okay.
So as we go down, this will actually take you one story down.
Is this how moviegoers get into the theater?
Oh no. This is nothing along this. This is the behind the scenes tour.
Okay.
So this would have been under the original stage.
Okay.
So the stage would have been right above us. And then
Is this where the restaurant's going to be?
no, so this will be the backstage for the performing arts space. And then there'll be lifts for the stage, dresser rooms on the side. And if you take a peek in this area here, that floor here, yeah, that floor that's up there, let's put your head, it's really low. So the ceiling in that room is actually the floor of the main area, and where you're standing is the original orchestra pit from 1926.
Oh wow! This is where they played all the music. Okay. See all the music stands.
So when the hospital did this work in the 80s, they leveled out the floor, added all
Cindy's
this.
room written on the wall. Must have been someone named Cindy.
And then this is the orchestra pit, this is the original stage. And then this is the rake that slopes down from Main Street. So your seating for the performing arts space will be here, and then the stage will be right behind you.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. And then just watch your head because that
Yep.
white beam gets people.
I will make sure I watch it. 6'3" or 6'4". What goes up this way? Just go into the theater, or we go?
That's where we came.
No, we're going down 2 more stories.
I've seen the design specs online. So it's floor B, stairwell B4.
So this is the original Speakeasy nightclub during Prohibition.
You know, it has a bank feel to it.
Yeah.
Was this a bank at one point?
The top floor was. So
Okay, I could sense the bank part.
yeah, so back in the day, this was, when this opened, it was a Dunkin' bowling alley and a pool hall.
So it was you said bowling alley and a pool hall.
Yeah.
I could see it.
But they used it during Prohibition as a speakeasy.
So where else you gonna hide your booze?
Yep.
1920s.
So
I think I failed to tell you.
Yeah. So this was, we're now 3 stories under the theater. So that was
Is this where the speakeasy is gonna be?
yes.
Will that be this year?
No, so that's probably one of our last spaces.
All the old railings.
So that would have been one of the lookouts. So they needed eyes on both entrance and exits. So there were 2.
Is that a conveyor belt?
Yeah. So the hospital used this space as a record storage.
So this
And
is
so-
okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
That door over there would actually take you to the basement.
You're gonna have to fix all the roof area, all the damage. It's all gonna have to be fixed.
Okay.
So this will be like a cabaret style club. So think like small jazz stage, big comedy stuff, and then we'll have
You'll have drinks, you'll have appetizers, you
Mhm.
have a liquor license.
yes, yeah. So we'll have that here, and then the long-term vision for it is we don't want to get into the restaurant business because that's a whole other beast.
That's a big beast.
Yeah. So we
We want movie theater, we drink too.
eventually long-term we'll have a restaurant in here, but we'll just basically build the space out and then lease the space to whoever. Kind of like an incubator style. We'd like to work with somebody local that wants to put a restaurant in but can't afford,
Is
all
there,
their equipment.
where would the kitchen be? How would you?
So kitchen would actually go under the mezzanine here. So this goes the whole way back. So if you go the whole way back under the mezzanine to that wall, that will take you to under part of the main street.
This is where the kitchen would be. This is where all the food would be done.
Yeah.
This is actually a really big space.
Yeah, so the building itself is 50,000 square feet.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
You have enough space back here to put all sorts of kitchen appliances, stoves, refrigerators,
Yeah, and
grills.
this wall actually right here, so
That's gonna be where the kitchen is. Gonna be.
there was part of a tunnel system that connected a lot of the underground stuff.
I
so
can imagine
that,
with it being a speakeasy.
that actually is, that was sealed, but that was an original
But if you
tunnel entrance.
cleaned it up and put appliances and have 10 grills and
Yeah.
you have the space.
And the nice
The
thing
only
is
thing
that-
that worries me about it is I think of all the old people in Johnstown and I think of the stairs and falling.
well,
You're
thankfully,
jumping into the elevator. That actually better though, is cool too.
phase 1 is actually ADA accessibility to get all that.
Yeah, because I was thinking with,
Yeah. So we're going to take ownership of the bank building that's right next to us.
Okay.
And so that is going to be the interior. That's going to be demoed. So we'll have a park entrance, and then the actual elevator will go on the outside and poke it. So that way we don't lose the integrity of the original plasterwork and stuff by just putting an elevator anywhere within the space.
Got potential. Plus the conveyor belt is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of look at that space.
So it's 5 levels, right?
Yes. So technically the whole building is 8 levels.
8 levels.
5 above and 3 below.
You can do the speakeasy, do the theater. And this level is the conveyor belt level. And you could actually put tables up here.
Yeah, so we're going to put high top tables around the railing, and then this back area we're going to do a cognac lounge.
Okay. Cognac lounge right over here. How big of a staff would you need for all this?
So-
we're talking on like theater, restaurant, speakeasy.
So the nice thing is we don't have to hire everybody at once, and so the build out for the IMAX is about 15 to 20 employees.
Well, you get that once that gets off the ground,
Yep.
and you yeah.
And then each piece that we build in will add revenue to the next phase.
Okay.
Take us.
We're going upstairs, ascending. Dark. I'm not scared. No protection. You've been with the project now for 4 years?
Yeah, since about 2019 is when we started.
4 years.
Honestly, the hardest part of the entire project
Oh, I see where we are. Back on the main floor.
has been site control.
Back on the main floor.
All right, so we can go up this way. This will take us to the actual theater.
Okay.
So this is all original travertine marble. This was imported here.
Probably can't afford to buy this.
Yeah. So this is all.
It's actually pretty good condition.
Yeah. So this will.
Yeah, very steep. I think it'd be going long.
Yeah.
You got some exits stairs here.
So one of this Revitalize shirts.
One of my favorite movies.
One of the shirts we want to sell for merchandise says "I survived the stairs of the state theater."
God forbid somebody would fall on these. Wait for Joe wearing this.
So this area right here used to all be open. So when you would come in this little corridor, you would be able to look over. This was all marble, and you had these columns here.
Where'd the marble go?
So the last person to own this, before the hospital took over, was Ed Troll Sr.,
Okay.
his son owns Richland Cinemas.
Okay.
So they used to own the Richland Drive-ins, and as part of, the Trolls bought Act 1 and Act 2, the State Theater, and a couple other theaters. And then when they closed, they gutted them and took a lot of stuff and either kept it or opened the Richland Cinemas because there was a multiplex deal then. Because these were all single screen vaudeville theaters.
We're on the 5th floor right now.
This is actually the second floor.
Second floor. There's 8 floors in the building. Oh, this is a pretty room.
Yeah, so this floor that you're standing on was added by the hospital. They actually used this as an office space.
Look at that cool. I love stuff like this.
Yeah. So that's all hand done plastic. Almost 100 years old now. So all of the ornate stuff that you see is going to stay or be fixed.
And you have these old, super cool old tiles.
Yeah, those are actually acoustic tiles that they had in the 80s. To take down on the echo. So long-term plan for this is this second through the 5th floor where we're at now. This is all going to be the IMAX theater.
Okay.
So
not this room.
no, so this stairwell is going to go away, and then there'll be 2 alleys that will take you into the IMAX. But basically, this will become a second, larger concession area, and then behind you there, that's our business office right now. But basically, that's going to become more food service area. So if you're here for an IMAX, you can actually
So
speak.
the IMAX will work up here. Wait for Joe.
You're on the
Hi,
way for
Bobby. So this is where the IMAX is going to be.
Yes.
So it'll be like a double screen.
Yes. So the IMAX will be about 60 feet wide and go floor to ceiling. This is what.
Go down the stairs.
Careful. This is what the original theater actually looked like. Other than the seats and the carpet, the plaster and everything, this is the ornate architecture that was in here. And this was all done by hand. It's all horsehair plaster. So this was one of the first buildings to be fully electrified, one of the first theaters. One of the claims to fame was that it was virtually fireproof, they said. So there was a ton of asbestos in this. It had the world's largest asbestos
Oh, you
curtain.
said the A word.
Yeah, the world's largest.
I was going to ask, I know it's dark. I see some of the
white stuff on the walls.
Yeah, so that is actually old plaster that's come down. So
Okay.
the roof leaks in these two corners and in the back corner.
So that's the $100,000 to fix the roof.
So the
How
roof,
soon will that be faced with water damage? It's
so
really bad.
so the roof is 150, and that's the first thing that we're doing. So our
Because
dumpster.
once the water gets in, you never get rid of it.
Right.
You always have mold.
So our goal is to get that done first, and
And when
then
you do that, you're going to try to restore the, I mean, all this old, you know.
yeah. So the goal here is that a lot of people have been concerned that when IMAX comes in, they're going to make it like a black box, you know, kind of like
They're
modern
going
stuff.
to want to update it.
But the nice thing is that they understand what we're trying to do,
You had that
and
big rotunda.
we're going to keep all of this plaster.
Okay.
And the coloring might change, but all in all, the plaster will all
You
remain
want to keep the
same.
original, you want the antiquity of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the seating, the rake for the seating is going to be, this is very steep, as everything is in this building.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and so sit in that row there, and tell me how uncomfortable it is for a 6'4" gentleman.
Right here?
Yeah. So you're.
This is very uncomfortable. I have no leg room and I can't even move my legs.
Yeah. So our goal is the seating rake is
And
going
if you
to
sat
come
next
out.
to me, we would be squished.
The seating rake will come out this way. This wall is going to go away, and the screen's going to be pushed the whole way back.
Now,
against
is there
the seating.
something behind? I see the artwork up top of the gallery.
Yeah, so what you see here, so right here would have been where the balcony dropped off, and as you looked out over this, would have been where we were, where the stage was, and everything like that. So the hospital added the floor in the 80s and preserved this space. So rather than take that all out, this will be its own theater, and then this.
Plus the IMAX.
Yeah, so this wall is going to come out, and then the IMAX will be against that grand proscenium. So you'll have the IMAX screen will go up to that ornate plaster back
Joe
there.
and I just did our weekly podcast. We were talking about you. What I couldn't remember was you don't own this yet. Is it JRA or hospital? That's where I was confused.
So right now, the hospital still owns the building.
That's what I thought, the
And that
hospital.
has been the hardest part of this entire project was site control. And anybody that's done any sort of project, it's very hard to get things going without site control. And so we finally have a deal negotiated with the hospital.
That was the dollar deal. Transfer to Jared, then transfer to you.
Yes. So, and the reason why that has taken so long, so we won the RFP with the city of Johnstown and the hospital on August 21st
Okay.
of 2020.
Oh, that was 3 years ago.
Yeah. So we won it on 2020. The RFP stated that the winner of the RFP would get the building. They would get the building and they would get $1 million in an RCAP grant. Well, there was no RCAP grant, and the hospital didn't feel comfortable giving us the building because we were a new entity. And they were concerned that if we just gave them this building, what's the likelihood that they'll be successful?
In 5 years,
Yeah.
you have a blighted building.
Yeah, and they didn't, to be totally fair, it makes sense. Like, they wouldn't want the negative press of saying they were trying to do a good thing and then 2 years later it closes.
Well, plus
So-
it's basically connecting to their property, and
Exactly.
if it gets blighted, it would affect the hospital.
Yeah, so we've been operating on 1 month leases for 18 months. So when we have movies and concerts and stuff like that, we send them our schedule
And
about.
for our viewers watching this, and Joe and I have had a lot of talks with you, you're not paid, you're volunteer, you've been doing this for 4 years, you have a normal job,
Yes,
you're here, you and your wife,
yes.
most
of the
nights, doing
yeah.
you do the cleaning, you're the housekeepers.
Yes, we're housekeepers. We do everything. I've become a master at scrubbing toilets. I have learned the hard way as to why organizations say no public restrooms.
Yeah.
So
Not to mention, you're the movie man, you show the movies, you have to post on your Facebook pages,
Yeah.
you have to get the word out, you have to coordinate the press release with the media, you're dealing with all the political interests that, trust me, Joe and I know they're not easy to deal with.
Yeah.
And you are still, like you say, not in site control.
not yet, but we have a pathway to that. It's currently underway, and so within the next 30 to 45
Plus,
days, that'll
you've
take
already obtained a liquor license.
in the contract with
A
IMAX.
contract. And this will happen, you think, summer of 2023?
So the work will begin summer of 2023. So one of the things that's really cool about IMAX is that they become a project partner. And so they're going to send a lot of their experts they're a global leader in film and film technology. So they'll actually be here in Johnstown working alongside us. And one of the things that was really important to us is if we have somebody that is an expert in branding and marketing and that sort of thing, is how can we help other businesses? So if there's...
Well, you play off each other.
Yeah,
People
so if
go to
there's...
the movie theater, then they go for dinner before or after, they go to a bar for a drink, they stop at the Coney Island for a hot dog, they stop at Capri Pizza.
Yeah, and so
Dinner
our
and a
goal
movie.
is to how can we help promote the local businesses as well in the greater Johnstown region, because it's not just, there's more than just Main Street here. And so we have to make sure that we're promoting all of the good restaurants and places that are all around Johnstown.
Now, Joe had brought up during our podcast, we were in This Town Won't Die, you refused to show it.
Yeah.
You're going to hear us say, why didn't he show it?
Yeah.
Will this be open to everyone to use?
Yes.
Take it over?
So
Vince wants to come back and say we're going to show This Town Won't Die. We're not
Yes.
going to say it's too negative about the power brokers who can't show it.
No, he can, as long as he pays the fee to show the movie, we can schedule that. And the theater was built in 1926.
Almost 100 years.
By George Panagatakis, who was an immigrant from Greece, and he and his family built this as a community theater, and that's what we want it to be again.
And like theater, like acting, you can do all sorts of live things as well.
Yeah,
You've had music festivals here, you've had forums.
Yep.
One of the things that I was critical of was first when we had $28 million, you had a profit in 2060, and I said, how are they going to make a profit in 40 some years?
Yeah.
Then the Vision people had 50 million in the theater, now you're down to what, like 7 or 8 million?
We're right around 8 million. And what we used for that calculation was RS Means is a company that puts out construction aggregates for.
You understand, like when Joe and I support your program. I've said that too. I'm saying it on the video. I say it on other videos. My concern though is this sustainable because it's basically taxpayer funded?
So what
you need to take in how many, like I think of the Richland Mall cinemas. We have streaming services, like that whole debate about is a theater going downhill?
Right. So multiplexes right now are struggling. Yeah.
You're going in, so I think,
So
we can pretend we're at the movies.
So one of the things that I think IMAX was attracted to with us and our plan is that it is true that multiplexes right now are very much struggling.
And especially across the country.
Yeah, so COVID really helped to kill a lot of those big first-run movies, and a lot of those were delayed, canceled, that sort of thing. So
we were shut down for 2 years.
Right.
Nobody was going out.
So the big thing for us is when we were talking with IMAX is that we look at this building, the current market for movie theaters is they want to get you into the theater, get you your ticket, your beer, your expensive popcorn, and get you out the door in 3 hours.
You told me once your profit is the concessions.
Yeah, so
that's where you make your money.
Right.
I remember we had the whole talk about that.
Yeah, so the big thing is the market is about getting people in the door, have them here for 3 hours, fill them with as much stuff as you can, and then get them out for the next show. But we want people to stay here as long as possible. So if you come here for a movie,
you and I were talking. Tell our viewers what's your schedule, what do you show, like plug. You have a video.
Yeah, so we show all second run films right now, and so basically we go and get the rights for all the films with individual film brokers. And so
you can show any film you want.
Yeah,
it's current. Now the current ones are probably more expensive.
So, first run films, you have to have a master licensing agreement. So ones that just come out in multiplexes today, we don't have a master licensing agreement.
Probably very expensive.
Yes. So once IMAX comes in, we'll be able to show first run movies, but we show all second run movies. Classics are a big hit right now. And what we try and focus on is rather than just show a movie at random, is like this is Women's History Month, and so we're showing movies like Hidden Figures. We showed Thelma and Louise. We try and theme our movies so that way, we've done dinner in a movie here, or we cater it and that sort of thing. We try and make it so that it's more of an experience, and I think that's what was a big draw for IMAX was not only the fact that it is kind of a mom and pop shop that's trying to make this happen, but their focus as a company is all on experiential films. And so they pride themselves on the technology they use, the world's biggest screen and best pictures and best sound, and to put that in a historical space that's focused on an experience is really important to them.
I think it's a good idea. My concern though is it sustainable?
Yeah.
You and I have had this like 4 or 5 times talk. Is you bring the IMAX here, will you get 100 people a week?
So the
And that's not a lot of people for a week.
No, so what the focus is and how you come to those aggregate numbers is you look at what the average market draw for an IMAX film is, how many films you're able to show.
I bet you know all the answers. Right?
Yeah.
You're gonna tell us all the answers.
Well, so the
folks.
big thing is what we did is we looked at a 10-county radius because you looked at how many theaters
So
within
from like
a 10-county.
Pittsburgh to State College?
Yes. So you look at how many of those areas have a theater, how many of them have a boutique theater, and then how many of them have an IMAX. And so those aggregate numbers all get put together that IMAX helped us crunch to basically say, is there enough pull from a daily, weekly, monthly, especially with the first run films, that you would be able to pull the people. Now, the beauty of it is that when you are showing first run films, and this is the interesting
These
thing
are your
with
new
movies.
releases, your brand new films.
So brand new movies. So say like a new Star Wars or an Avengers movie comes out. So you have to have a master licensing agreement with Disney, basically. And Disney is going to say you have to show the movie for 4 weeks, X amount of times, and they're going to take between 60 and 70% of your ticket revenue.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and so that's why you have a lot of money that goes into your concessions and that sort of thing. So that's why the liquor license helps subsidize that. And then
you'd be able to serve food and alcohol right from the theater.
That's correct,
So I
yes.
could sit in front of the movie and watch the new Star Wars, the new Avengers, and have a meal and drink.
Yep, and then on top of that, once we're completely finished, is to be able to have the other products and services. So we'll have the overnight suites in the front of the building.
Like a
that
hotel?
that were the old apartments. So we're right now projecting 6 to 8 suites that people can stay in. So we're thinking of it more of like an experience. So if you're coming in from out of town, your staycation or a date night, you can actually stay right here.
Now I'm thinking about how many staff do you have to employ?
So
So you're
the-
going to need people to clean the rooms, people to serve the food, people to run the theater, people to run the movie projector, a marketing person, which would probably be you.
Well, that's the beauty too. So marketing, IMAX comes in as a staff augmentation and will help us do our marketing for us. So we have Troy Smajda is.
You're going to show me the balcony too, right?
This is the balcony.
Okay.
This is the original balcony. So Troy does our marketing for us. Cassidy helps us with our booking.
But
and
none
then
of these
IMAX,
people are paid, right? They're all volunteer.
Yeah, they're
so
all
you have an
volunteer.
entire team right now that has to find a way to get paid for what they're doing.
Yep.
Dolly's a little confused, people. It's okay. How do you make it profitable?
So the
Because
big
you and I have had this talk about how like it's a beautiful theater, and I wish Joe could get more of the backdrop. I mean, some of the beautiful artwork. It's historic. It's nice. How do you keep it?
Yeah. So the upkeep on the building is after.
Because you have to have insurance liability.
Right. So the
Like, and
insurances.
that's another bill.
Right, insurances and utilities. There's about $3,000.
You knew exactly. There were
Yeah.
$3,000 a month for insurance, and that's not even paying a single employee.
No, not yet. So in 18 months, we've sold with just kind of the random stuff we've had and the bigger concerts that have been successful. We've grossed about $60,000 to $65,000.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, and then
And how many months?
about 18 months.
You're making me do math, Joe. I'm horrible at math. 18 months, it's 65,000, and you put out $3,000 a month for insurance and utilities. So 36. So basically, you're barely breaking even.
And that's really our focus is that.
That doesn't even
we-
cover the rental of the movie or paying any of the staff.
So with first run films, so you don't pay for a rental. They take their take is their ticket revenue on the back end there. So they're going to take 70%. There's no rental or fees associated with that.
Okay.
They're going to take that money, and then you have concessions. You have the expanded food service. You have the alcohol sales.
So you're dependent. So that your money comes from the drinks and the food to make up the fact that you have a $3,000 liability insurance bill and a utility bill every month. Plus, you're going to have to employ. So how many employees?
So we're looking probably 15 to 20 throughout the course of the multiple phases. Now keep in mind too, the suites are only going to need staff for cleaning and that
Always
sort of
working at
thing.
the ghosts. We have ghosts in here.
Yes.
Do a ghost of the state.
Yeah.
That'll be my next conversation.
Yeah. This place is very, very haunted.
I love haunted ghost
yes,
tours.
so,
Get out the s'mores. They can scare me.
So the big thing is that right now what we're focused on is our phase one, which that part is covered financially. So I say that's all the unsexy stuff where you look at, your roof, your HVAC, your electrical.
And that's all
like those
government. That's
sorts of
government.
things.
Those are grants.
Yeah, so we got a DCED grant for $100K, and that's
I
going to
remember
cover
that.
our
That was the
abatement,
roof. The roof, I
and
remember that.
$150 for the roof.
And do IMAX pay for the IMAX, or do you pay for that?
So that is a partnership with them. So we can't release those specific numbers yet because
You don't
we
probably
just.
don't know.
Well, the other thing too is because a lot of it's under non-disclosure until the
That's
contract
okay.
is totally.
Plus,
out,
you're
so.
out. Did you spend 20 grand on your liquor license?
The liquor license was $62,500.
62,000. You see why I support you. But I'm like, how are you going to make money off?
Yeah, so that was the liquor license was privately funded.
Whoa, but still, that's 62,000 out of your pocket.
Yeah. So
Plus the 4 years of no money. Plus, if you do 20 employees, are you paying minimum wage?
So our goal is to pay not the state minimum wage. So our goal is to between 12 and 15 an hour, depending on what
So
it
you're
is.
going to be creating potentially 20 jobs at 12 to 15. I can't even do the math. That's like a $4 grand a month.
It depends on the hours too, because you have to keep in mind. So
And
one thing.
if they're full time, then benefits.
So yeah, so one thing that we're really focused on too is you have your first run films that will run in the evening. So we have the entire slate of IMAX documentaries that we are able to show, and so that's going to be big for partnerships with the schools and the communities that they can come in, because normally.
Well, you could be open during the day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You bust them in.
And that staff is incredibly minimal. So right now we've done some school field trips locally here where it's just me and another person, usually my mom or dad, and we're popping the popcorn. We're able to get.
Could
people in
you
their seats.
open this up? I'm thinking like the Pasquale Performing Arts Center up at UPJ. Could you have concert choirs, theater shows?
Yeah, so we actually did do.
There
our
are
first-
some local down, even the Johnstown Symphony. I don't even know where they rehearse.
Yeah, so we actually did a concert with the symphony. We partnered with them this year. We had a sellout concert with them. It was really successful it was the Martin Luther King celebration, so that was another really successful event. So one of the things that is really going to help us in terms of our funding mechanisms is new market tax credits and historical tax credits.
I was going there next because I was looking at like the lighting. Does all this stuff need rewired? How much actual like real cosmetic work do you need between your lighting and your plumbing and your pipes and your sewers and your
So the
nuts and bolts?
The sewer work's done. So the hospital
That's
did
a
the
good-
sewer work.
that's a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
Good.
So that is all completed. The electrical work and everything in here only needs to be brought up to the standards to handle a larger load for
Okay.
the speaker system and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And so the new market tax credits, since we're in a Keystone Opportunity Zone, how those work is essentially a bank or major corporation buys the tax credits and they get the tax credit, and then you get about 33 cents on the dollar.
Okay.
So that will cover the majority of the project with that funding there.
You're taking an amazing risk. And you've told me in the past you have total faith, no reservations. God
I mean,
bless
you have to take risk in anything.
Well, that's one of the concerns. What happens if I've seen the 5 and 10 year projections you've had? Like I said, 100 people a week have to show up to watch a movie to break even.
No, so we're looking at between 50 and 60 people
A week.
week.
That's actually very doable.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, since we will be one of the few independently owned and operated IMAXs within the country. A lot of
Okay.
big box retailers like AMC and Regal and those places, they have to go on the national schedule of first run movies.
And a ticket is $10 a ticket.
That's our goal. Yes, so we
So
want
if
to
you
keep those
do
ticket prices
50
low.
tickets a week and you make 500 a week, that's $2 grand a month.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still caught on. I mean, am I making sense here? How are we going to support this so you don't go bankrupt?
So the function there is because you factor in the concessions. So you're
Okay.
looking at about the average is between 60 to 70% of the people
Profit.
come in.
That's the profit. It goes
Well,
profit.
that's 60%.
I buy the popcorn. You pay like
Yeah.
$10 and it's all butter and it's
60 to 70% of the people that buy a movie ticket buy at
Junk
least
food.
one
About- yeah,
concession
the
item.
junk food.
So to give you an idea, so we sell a large box of popcorn, and it's still under the other market values for other
Yeah.
theaters. So the large boxes you saw, those are $5, and those cost us about 68 cents.
That's a
per.
huge
Yeah.
profit.
Coca-Cola, as part of the deal that we were able to work out, we got a ton of free product from them. The coolers, Dolly is eating a bottle cap, I think.
Something. Or a
the
guitar
coolers
pick.
that we got.
Don't choke, Dolly.
It's a guitar pick from
Yeah,
the concert.
that's what I thought.
So the coolers that we got were provided by Coke. So a lot of that stuff is all provided as well. And then we shop all local for our products through Conrad's wholesalers and places like
So
that.
with 50 or 60 people a week, you're hoping to make enough in concessions to make up for that.
Yes.
If you need $3,000 for the utilities and the insurance, and I'm thinking at least what, $3,000 for employee salaries a month, at least.
It's a little bit less than that because you're looking at part-time, because there won't be very many full-time positions, especially as we start to get going and build out that schedule. Because you look at a night like tonight, if we were showing a movie at 7:30, I would get down here around 5:30. I'd do kind of the
place
spot
off,
cleaning,
prep,
get stuff going, and start popping popcorn. My dad will come in and start popping the popcorn and box it up. So, and then you're usually here for the 2 to 3 hours for the movie. We'll give tours to people after the movie that are interested, and then you're out of here by 9 or 10. So.
I want to talk about the ghosts. Tell me about the ghosts.
Yeah,
Joe laughs at me behind the camera. I want to hear about the ghost of the State Theater.
So it's actually
There's a ghost tour that they do downtown.
Yes.
And it's very popular. People I think of the ghosts of Gettysburg.
Yes.
That's
So Johnstown, actually, due to the flood and everything, and a lot of the death that has
we can walk
happened
up
here.
the top and stuff.
Yeah, so they've actually
Follow you up.
called this
I wanna take a look
one
at
of the
some of the
most
wall.
haunted main streets in all of America.
The State Theater, Johnstown, Main Street.
So George Panagiotakis in 1926 opened this, and on
Have you
January-
considered doing seances and tarot cards? And all
Yeah,
that?
definitely, especially as part of our October stuff. And that's the thing too, is that our programming is not just based off of movies alone. So you look at our classic vinyl concert series. We sold out 2 concerts on a Friday and Saturday at $25 a piece. After we pay the band, pay for concessions and everything like that, our net on an event like that is about $15,000. And that's one event for 2 songs.
The box office room. The movie room. So let's hear about the ghost. Do we have a name for the ghost?
We don't have a name. So this room, actually, the lights will turn on and off, and the switch will actually flip.
Lift the lights for me.
Yeah.
Lift the lights. Come
So
on.
the original projectionist in 1932 hung himself in this room, and then George Panagiotakis, the original,
Look at that view.
the original owner and builder of this place, shot himself on the 4th floor in his office, an apartment.
Do we know why he shot himself?
So, he owned 3 movie theaters, 2 restaurants, and a candy store. And at that time, after the crash of 29 in 1932, they were going to foreclose on a lot of the properties, and he took his own life.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
They're not going to fit the lights for me, are they?
No, I don't think so.
What are you chewing now, Dolly?
Some popcorn.
Well, anything else you need to show us?
I don't think so. There's a lot of other stuff, but I think we can save it for the ghost tour and other parts, because there's a whole front section of the building. It's just empty rooms right now, but that's where our suites and
We
classrooms
need to
are
get
also
someone
gonna go.
like John Edwards, or locally there's Christina Watts. I'm friends with the Divine Medium.
Yeah.
Christina, if you're watching, we're gonna tag you and plug you. She's so talented. She would show up. There's a woman in Southmont named Majda. She would do tea reading for people. There's that Ryan Michaels, is that his name? He was the kid psychic. He's in his early 20s. He's on Facebook. He could come in and do events.
So we were talking too, because not only will the new market tax credits and historical tax credits help pay for IMAX and those things that come in, but that will also help us with the operational costs as well, because that's money that comes in that you are receiving from the sale of tax credits that you're free to do it for your project. So that's going to basically help subsidize our operations as we get
Before I
going.
forget to ask, how many seats are in here?
So we can fit 414 seats in here.
414. So the uncomfortable seats.
Yeah.
So you're going to redo the seats and take them
Oh
out?
yeah, the seating's all going to be replaced and be kind of your more standard high back recliner-based movie seats.
Like Westwood Plaza Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So the big thing is, like, if I could, because especially today, we've been doing a lot of back and forth online with people, is that,
people say that we're well connected, and that's why this project is in the state that it's in, and the grants that we received.
You are very persistent.
Right, and I think
And as Cambria County's biggest critic, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
Eric, for 4 years, I've been very critical of you. And for those of you watching this, Eric will tell you I have been probably been one of the biggest critics.
and when you're
And
critical,
I've
I'll
asked a
call
lot
you.
of, and a lot of the stuff I support your project. I think we need a theater. I think it's a great idea. My concern is it sustainable? Is it going to take off the ground?
Yeah.
Will you get the 50 or 60 people you need here a week? We're going to spend money on the concessions.
It's really interesting. So my wife and I went to see Ant-Man. We were like, you know what, let's go. We wanted to get out of town. We wanted to do some shopping and stuff like that. So ironically, we ended up, we started driving and we stopped at Starbucks in Evansburg, and then we went to Altoona, and I was like, I want to see what their theater's like.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, do a little recon.
Their theater's
And so,
huge.
Yeah, so that's an AMC-based theater. And we were talking with people, it was for the new Ant-Man movie, and they were talking about, you know, the upcoming movies that are coming out in IMAX and that slate of films. And I turned around and I asked them, I said, let me ask you something. If there was a true IMAX theater in Johnstown, you know, I was asking them where they were from, and they were talking about, you know, like they were coming from Forest Hills and Salix. There were some from Evansburg and right there in Altoona. I said, would you travel to an independently owned IMAX theater in Johnstown and spend an evening there rather than an evening in Altoona? And they said, you know, well, what do you mean? Like, why would an IMAX come to Johnstown? And we explained, you know, what the project is like and how it's happening. And they were like, absolutely. So there is a lot of hope. It's anecdotal right now because you have to just wait and see if people are going to come.
And then when people criticize you for the government control, you got a lot of grant money. What happens when you are, I guess it would be your board the owner, not you? Who would own the State Theater? And would you keep the name State Theater?
Yeah, so that's the thing too, is we don't want our name associated, like this was the State Theater, it's always gonna be the State Theater.
But once you lose that oversight with the JRA and you don't have them back, you know, when you own it, what happens in 5 years? We talked about the projections.
Yeah.
You know, the right now the market with movie theaters in general, even the malls in general, it's a tough sell.
Yeah, so it's a tough sell, but what people, especially if you follow market trends in a post-pandemic spending habit, is that people, when they do choose to come out and spend their money, is they don't want just, I'm going to run to this chain restaurant and I'm just going to
experience.
They want an experience. And so the big thing is, how do we bundle and package our products and services as an experience?
Oh, you're selling so absolutely.
Yeah, and so those are the things that we're really banking on. Our current projections, which once we do take ownership, and again, so everybody's clear, like our website, statetheaterjohnstown.com, once we start construction, we are going to provide breakdowns and line items of where all the money is coming from, where the money is going to be spent.
And that's very transparent.
And the other thing we pride ourselves with is that Johnstown has this history of going outside of the city limits or Johnstown and saying we have to go get some big consultant, or we have to go pay this person to do this. And I think a really great message here is that in the time that we've been doing this, we've been working with major builders, we've worked with Upstreet Architects, CJL Engineering, local plumbers, local electricians, HVAC people. Is all the talent is right here in Johnstown. You don't have to go to Pittsburgh or Philly or Harrisburg or New York. Like, it's here, and if there's enough talent here to bring a global leader in IMAX, that they have full faith and trust that this is going to work, then I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of buildings that can be fixed up. And that's the other thing too, is we want to provide potentially other young people an opportunity that, hey, if you just have a vision for something that you want in the town, go out and get it and give it a shot. And hopefully, it can be an inspiration for people. And then also a model so that when we are talking to leaders within the city is, if this takes us to 2026 to complete the entirety of the project, because it's phased out is the other thing, is that we're not just biting this all off, taking out a loan and spending all this. It's, we get the IMAX up and running, we get that profitable, and the money can go back in the building.
And you go into the speakeasy, into the restaurant.
Yeah, so it's not all at once where you have then these huge bills that you have to pay. And we are dealing with where we have a fairly large bankroll from the events and concessions and things that we have money there that can help pay for these things. But the big thing is if this project will have taken us 6 to 8 years from inception to completion, we need to ensure that the next person, group, whatever that comes in has the support, regardless of what it is, that time is cut in half. So how do you cut your budget in half? How do you cut the time in half? And ensure that if somebody has a good idea, there should be an opportunity and an avenue for them to talk to all of the leaders within the area that, hey, if it's a good idea, we will support it. It doesn't matter who you are or what your background is in, because again, my background is in teaching and project management. My wife, is a teacher right now, and the relationships that we have formed has helped us so much, and they've been so supportive with this project. But it's not because of who my dad is or how much money we have. It's because of the work that we put into it. That part of it is like, well, Jesus, this kid won't leave us alone. But the other part is,
That's a good
and the other thing is that they've seen the value in that we have had many sold out concerts, many sold out movies here for those sorts of things. The revenue generation that is here, we were saying like just last weekend, it's a $15,000 net for the weekend.
In one weekend.
And
That would keep you afloat for multiple months.
exactly. And so how do we put that back into the building? How do we put it into our staff and support people? But even on your page today was talking to people is what have we learned over this period, that regardless of what your political stances are or views, if you have something that you're passionate about or want to be involved in or make a change in, how can we help you to show you what our process was and to do it in a constructive way that not only is able to see your goals succeed, but also to ensure that it's done in a timely fashion and in a way that is helpful to the community at large.
Well, for our Revitalize Johnstown family, we've had an amazing behind-the-scenes tour of the State Theater. Eric, this is amazing. Joe and I enjoyed this. We're going to probably post it maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday next week. For those of you who watch this, please share it. A lot of ideas, a lot of information. We look forward to more updates on Revitalize. We're going to click off soon and get a picture of us. I want the theater in the background for a super cool picture because I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add for? I do the Jerry Springer final thought.
Oh, no. I think the big thing is you guys obviously are the Mr. Negatives of the town. You get painted that.
I do get a bad rap for it.
I think,
But we're here.
right.
We're soaking up the information.
That's what I want to say. There's not a lot, and Joe, you'll probably laugh behind the camera. There's probably very little that you and I agree on. Either politics-wise or how money should be spent or what, the direction of the town, those sorts of things. But I think the important thing is that, I respect Joe and his thoughts. I respect you and your thoughts. I don't necessarily agree with the ways in which you may talk about people and that sort of thing, but that's okay because
the posters, Joe. They don't like the posters.
But we can still have civil conversations and talk like adults and share thoughts. And
the posters are only people in politics, and that's to get their attention because they ignore everybody. Just like the prospect homes, like everything else you talk about, they don't do their job.
But
so I gotta give them a little prod.
I can't speak to that. But the big thing is we have to be able to engage each other and have conversations.
And I'm grateful you took your time to give us a behind-the-scenes tour.
Well, if you're going to do more, this is a bad lighting.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Let's get a picture, Joe.
Well, we're recording. There we go.
Okay, everybody, this is part 2 of Revitalize Johnstown, behind the scenes. Well, we did part 1, we turned the camera off. This is the part that Joe, the other guy behind the camera, is actually here with Eric and I. We did a behind the scenes of the State Theater. We just took a really cool picture in the State Theater, and now we are here for the...
You guys were talking.
We were talking. So Eric, I'll give the floor back to you.
Yeah, so, we faced a lot of challenges. We talked about just the idea of getting site control is a challenge. The hospital is, Duke Light Point, who has done everything they can to try and help us to be successful in that.
Well, they want the
thing.
building
So,
to be profitable and draw
Right.
people back. It helps the hospital.
yeah, so those are just the challenges that you face, and I think that the big thing is we have to make sure that there is a pipeline for anybody of any income level, education level, that sort of thing. It should be an ideas-based sort of thing. That if you have an idea, that there is support there.
Well, the
to
potential,
make it.
if you have a theater company doing say, shows every month.
Mhm.
They can practice. They can pay. They have to pay a fee to rehearse, like rent space, show movies. Mentioned the ghost stuff in October. There's a lot of ideas you could do.
Yeah, so it's a lot about the big thing is, I said this at the beginning of the project, is Johnstown has no shortage of great ideas. There's a shortage of execution. And so it's about helping people to be able to execute on those good ideas, regardless of what their background is or anything like that. So
But I've talked since you were. Now you're in front of the camera. You can talk.
I'm waiting for my turn.
It is your
I'll-
go.
It's your turn.
It is
I'll
your
wait.
turn.
When I have a comment, I will
Okay.
I will interject that.
Okay, I don't totally usurp you.
But you guys are just going when I feel like
I will deflect to Joey.
when there's something I will say.
Oh,
I will
okay.
say.
I'm trying to think of what else we didn't talk about. Funding, expectation. What's your expectations?
Our expectations for this is, at the end of the day, this is not something where my wife and I hope that we can, get rich and retire off of this or anything
Well,
like
and
that.
you're in
It's-
debt for $62,000 for a liquor license.
Yeah, so, the
That
goal.
you have to recover before you even break even.
Yeah, so the goal is really just to, there's a lot of buildings downtown that if things like the roof aren't saved or the windows are closed up or that sort of thing, they're gonna ending up on the demo list.
Oh,
And a
yeah.
lot of these are historical buildings like this. They are on the historical registry, which also makes them either very difficult or very expensive to tear down. And so the challenge there is, do you save them? Are they worth saving? You have to have something to put in them.
Now, what I didn't ask you was, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is The Prestige
Why?
by Christopher Nolan.
That's an old movie.
It is.
That's like in the 80s, right?
No, that actually came out when I was in college. I was a junior in college in 2006. That
Okay.
came out. So it's Christopher Nolan. It has Hugh Jackman, Scarlett Johansson's in it. But it's about two dueling magicians, and it's a phenomenal story, and it's one of those movies that I've watched it 100 times, but every time you recognize something different in it that you didn't catch, and it's a great trick ending sort of movie, and it's just very phenomenally done.
Are we out of space?
No, I'm just making sure it doesn't shut off like it did before because I don't have any way. to-
Sometimes it shuts off on us.
Someone calls me, it might shut off. But you say that we're the negative people of the town. Okay. I don't really see it as that. I see it more as we are viewing the reality of the town.
Yeah, you're a realist.
The problem that with the sustainability aspect, which you guys were talking about it earlier, there really is a sustainability issue because if it was profitable, then there wouldn't be. But as it currently is, you're putting in a lot of volunteer work. That's why I say I think you have a lot of heart into it, and you're one of the most sincere people who are doing the things down here.
You are.
But I think you bought into the lie of Main Street, per se. I think the Main Street, Central Park kind of thing, it's something that they pump a lot of money into. They've been doing this for a while now, and it doesn't manifest into progress, true progress. It manifests into a nice news article, positive, likes on Facebook or whatever, but it's not changing the course of the area.
Yeah, so I think to that point, this piggybacks into kind of the argument that we have is
Yes.
it's more of an economic argument and like a revitalization argument is, what do you do first? Do you focus on the residential? And we've had conversations where
You said residential or commercial,
yeah, and you
and I don't know exactly what you meant by commercial. What do you mean by commercial?
So focusing on your small businesses, your Main Street, the majority of the spaces on Main Street are commercial buildings.
So in that aspect, commercial, any kind of business enterprise that would make profit would be, if you want to consider commercial, then yes, but you really want to prioritize in an area to something that brings money into the area. And small business wise, unless they're exporting, aren't bringing money in. So like I have a business, I'm not bringing money into the community. I'm not taking money from outside really and bringing it in where I have, manufacturing something. I'm making a widget and exporting it. So that if we want to bring money into our community, we actually have to have an industry that's exporting, and we have to align our politics to gear where these larger companies, or even mid-sized or small companies, where we are bringing in small businesses that have the potential to pull money into our community. So there are small businesses that will do that. So you can have micro industries that are pulling money in, but a restaurant isn't going to do it. A chiropractic office isn't going to do it. A movie theater really isn't going to
Don't
do
sell
it.
yourself short, Joe. I
But-
think you can do it.
But they're not going to bring in. You have to take something and make it and get rid of it and bring money in. So there's nothing that's doing that. Then we're just trading the money in the community around, and we don't really have a high volume of money in this community around. I mean, we don't. The incomes are low. The job opportunities are
40%
low.
poverty in the city.
So that's what we're working with. Now, people, no matter what comes up, there's a new restaurant, there's a new something, and they go and everybody gushes over it, and those will really feel good, but they're not game changers. So my business isn't a game changer, and neither is yours. But the Main Street kind of lie that those things, they are perpetuating a thing that's not really a game changing ideology.
Yeah, so I think if you look at it from the Main Street project on its own,
Yes.
there's not historically a lot of models for success and case studies for success, to your point.
On a Main Street.
On a Main Street.
Well, we don't have that kind of community anymore.
Right. So the focus has to.
I think.
Okay. So we're back. We're going to be finished. Let's finish our thought about the Main
Yeah,
Street.
so you bring up a good point, and I think that it's the right trajectory in the long term. So in the short term, is it going to pay off like 5-10 years? No, because there has to be a longer term plan that also is going into neighborhoods like you guys live in, like Moxham. I think you live off of.
I live in Walnut Grove.
Walnut Grove. So successful models where the main focus is on, commercialization or commercial small business, where your Main Street works in other small towns that are seeing economic decline, population decline, rising crime, all those things that come with it. If you pick a place and start there. So we've done that in terms of like the Main Street project, whether you agree with it or not. The thing is, we have to also come in on the back end and have plans in the longer term that is going to help support and subsidize those communities that are facing the struggles that.
But what are you saying you're long term putting in? What do you mean by the long term? What long term thing are you saying that you're producing here, like your plan for the theater? Is that the long term is that what you mean by
No,
that?
just the Main Street corridor in general. So if that is the focus right now, and your focus is on a lot of these small businesses, and you're making this, more of a touristy, more of a touristy type town, where
Well,
you
the
are
tourist
going to
thing is
have
lost.
where you have more of that money coming in, because you look at the different, I call them fiefdoms, because it's like you have the Johnstown city proper, which is the poorest area, but then you have, Richland, Westmont, Ferndale, even going up in the Forest Hills. There are attractions that can bring money and tax revenue into this area. And then in your longer term, you have to have some sort of support so that as you have younger people here, like people say, we need to get young people here. It's like, no, we need to keep young people here.
True.
I agree, it's true.
You have, you throw a stone in either direction and you're hitting a different school district, or there's a lot of college campuses, even going out to St. Francis, Mount Aloysius, those areas. How are we keeping young people engaged? And we have to engage them when they're younger, ask them, get them involved in the community to say, what do you want the Johnstown of the future to look like? What kinds of homes do you want to do? How can we look at those historic homes?
That's not why younger people are leaving this area. Younger people leave this area because they can't find employment that's worth being employed here, or the same job here, they can get twice as much an hour outside of the area.
But you think about that, that's not necessarily true now, because I work for Problem Solutions, which happens to be locally based.
Yes.
So
before that, I was a teacher at a cyber school, so you
Okay.
could work anywhere. So my wife and I were teachers, and then whenever I went down and worked on a DoD contract in Baltimore, that's when I went to the project management training. And
Okay.
so those types of jobs now, especially in the tech sector, you can work anywhere now. And
Okay.
and the thing is that we don't necessarily we have to stop thinking about what's going to be the next Bethlehem Steel that's going to save Johnstown, because those days are over and gone. And we don't have enough tax subsidies to get a big commercial enterprise in here like that again. And so how are you attracting those types of work-life
People who can work at home.
opportunities?
You're not, I mean, there are those opportunities, but they're not as prevalent as you might think. There are not, you go online on a job search, go to a large city, most of them are not work at home jobs.
Well, that's shifting right now, but they're also shifting back, because post-COVID, they want them back 3 days to
Yeah.
work in the office because they paid for all this expensive real estate. But people are shifting away from that, because why would you? It's the same reason that we came back here, is because if we can live anywhere,
No, I came
Because
back
we
here
could
for
work
family.
anywhere.
That has nothing.
we came back for
The
family.
problem is with
Yeah.
the declining population. They say we lose 1,000 people per county a year per the last census.
They're leaving because
They're
there's
leaving.
not jobs here that can provide for them. If they could go online and then do an online job, they probably wouldn't leave, but they're not able to find them, they have to leave.
So it's
And people are making stuff and doing things in jobs somewhere because they're migrating to areas that have those jobs.
Mhm.
But we don't have them because we're not getting any new, people are still making some stuff here in this country, but they're not coming here. So that's our problem.
so they like the companies that are going to hire people, essentially, like the big companies that will hire those people
Take
that
a look
live
at
here.
Johnstown. The major employers we have are government, whether it's the school, the county, the
Or
city.
health services. now.
Or social services for the elderly and the declining population.
Mhm.
We don't really have a manufacturing industrial sector anymore. They're all based somehow, whether it's the airport, Camtran, it's all government
Now you
funded
can
business.
supplement, I mean, if we wanna keep it, if you wanna make the economy of this area boom, you're gonna have to bring something in that's gonna supply decent paying jobs to masses of people who are not highly educated to specialization.
And then
So,
when you have those jobs, then you have available income, then you could worry about all the service area stuff.
So you said highly educated to specialization. Give me an example of that.
degreed in a specialization.
So degreed in like software engineering or something like
Perhaps.
that. So, if your target
I was being
audience
general,
for
so
people,
yeah.
so if your target audience are people that, you want your college graduates to choose Johnstown to come back, pick that target market and then have the resources available that are targeting those types of employers that either are remote workers within the tech sector, or that I disagree that it is hard to find employment when you can go on LinkedIn and get hits by a recruiter
Have
for
you seen what those jobs pay?
Well, I'm talking like so my job technically does not require a college degree. It
Mhm.
requires a certificate. So you could get a certificate for probably $300, 2 to 3 days of training. If you could get an internship somewhere and get some experience, you could get the job. Those jobs are paying anywhere on the low end from $60,000 to upwards of.
But in Johnstown, they say we are a poverty-stricken area with 40% poverty. I think the median was like $25,000, give or I don't even know the
Yeah.
exact number.
Mhm.
Those that when you hear those statistics, it's great to hear $60,000. It's not the reality of the town.
Well, it's not the reality of the town, because you have to attract those people back in here that are working those jobs, that do have the flexibility to come back.
But I think
And
Joe's
so-
point
And
is
you're
you have to
thinking,
have-
and you're
Of course.
thinking you're attracting those people by bringing a Main Street kind of thing together to where they come because they go, oh, I want to live here because I can work from home and I'll have something fun to do.
Right, but the thing is that it's not enough to have a cool Main Street and potentially advertise it for those remote workers to come in. There also has to be a longer term plan to help the communities where there are these beautiful historic homes that have gone, they're not taken care of. You have the beautiful historic basic Main Street. I think is it Park Avenue in Moxham was
Yeah.
like the main drag. There are a lot of gorgeous homes that you can get for the price of a used Civic right now. And so there has to be a plan in place to shore up those homes so that when you have those people coming in, that you can basically say, look.
But yeah, they don't want to do that. I've already tried that.
No, but I mean, to be totally honest, and to your viewers too, there's a difference between, to be totally honest, me asking and taking a plan at this point and you asking a plan. I mean, I think to be honest, you guys have burnt every bridge and
I did this
ounce of
years ago.
goodwill, you know. So
This was years
so
ago when
that's
I
the
was
thing
on
too, is
council.
like
And
why on earth would anybody, even if you did have the greatest plan, if you've spent that time burning those bridges, why would they listen to you? You know, so.
well, why didn't they not listen before I burned those bridges, as you say?
But I think if your idea of
Let me tell
progress,
you about
if your idea of progress is to, I have great ideas and I'm on council, or you were on the planning commission, I think you were,
Okay.
or something like one of the commissions.
yes.
If you have great ideas and they're not being heard, why would your next step be to get upset and burn the bridges? Like, why not find ways to collaborate?
You make
and
it
work
sound like
through
I'm
it?
throwing a tantrum or I'm getting upset and burning bridges. That's, I mean,
That's not the reality. And the
That's not
reality
the
is
reality.
the people that you're talking about are power brokers who control everything behind backroom scenes and strangle the town's money. They're using all the government influences to control everything.
I presented something to that effect, having an artist relocation program. I had members that were on the Bottle Works that were past board members, artists in the community, to bring in and do what you're saying, taking Victorian houses and the live workspace and bringing in. And I said you can also convert. It doesn't have to be an artist program. It could be a software engineer, because you're making an art, you're taking and you're doing it and you're putting it out. So it's like a micro industry, kind of like what you're saying. The city did not want to do that because they didn't want to step on the toes of the people with Bottle Works, because they are controlling the arts. And I said, and they had an artist relocation program going in the city, but there was artists that came in or would call to try and come in. No one would either answer the phone, or the city would tell them they don't have any houses available in the project or for that project, because they've isolated the artist corridor to just, where they decide the artist relocation center would be, which is around the Bottle Works, where you should open up to the whole city. They weren't hearing anything. They weren't going to change that. So the program completely failed where it could succeed, but because they don't want to step on toes, because they want to control, this is our art center, it's a complete failure. What do you do with that?
So I guess the question is, like, I don't know, I'm a process person, and so I think that that's one thing that's been successful because of like the project management background.
You're
It's
talking
like
a lot of
this-
success, but you're working for free, so you can't really tell me how successful you are.
Well, I mean, we had a concert where,
But you worked for 4 years without a single red cent. You've spent $62,000 on a liquor license. You may see a dime, you think maybe in 2 or 3 years. That's Joe's point. And I understand what you're saying, but a lot of this is, you're saying that we burnt our bridges. You didn't burn yours. You lost, what, $100,000 at least minimum?
so I think the thing there is, back to your point, Joe, is that you didn't find success with the strategy that you were trying to employ with the art program, is
Okay.
what you're saying. And so,
It was blocked, that's what he was saying.
right,
It was
so,
flat out
it was
blocked. I
blocked.
was told by another member of council, we don't want to step on the people.
They
with the
strangle
Bottle
things
Works.
out unless they can control it. And most people in town know the way the whole area works though, even the county.
right, so
So I present that information. You consider burning a bridge. I tell the public what happens, and they go, "Oh, that's negative." No, that's the reality of what's going on. And until people see how that works
And wake up.
and wake up and get rid of the people who are doing that, nothing will change. And you can say you can be nice and kissy face with everybody, but you're not getting anywhere either. So,
I think the interesting thing though is to say you're not getting anywhere either. It's dependent upon how you want to measure success. And so, will we be profitable? Can we be profitable? Will we be profitable? Mostly it's about, can we be self-sustaining? And the answer is yes, based on the metrics that we have right now with our ticket sales and the money that's going to go into the building, and then what we're able to do with the renovations, and then be able to open up the IMAX. Yes, we will be. We look at right now as, what are our metrics that we're using to measure success, and how do we define that right now? And so that's what we're focused on, which is, you know,
How
what
do you
are our
define success?
what are our ticket sales right now? How do we sell enough tickets right now to be sustainable?
With the
from
$3,000
month to
for
month? Right.
insurance and utilities plus another what, 6,000-7,000.
Right, because
For
as I
benefits
said
and
at the
employees.
as I
You
said
have
at
to
the
take
beginning, our goal here is not to get rich off this or to have me quit my day job and do this. You know, this is just a side thing that's for the benefit of the city. Like, I don't plan on really taking a huge salary unless it is hugely
But
successful.
that's something we pointed out with you are dependent on government money to get this off the ground. If the JRA wasn't stepping in to transfer for you, there wouldn't even be a state theater.
Right, but that is not
The roof, the repairs.
that is not because we needed JRA to do that. That was because of the stipulation that the hospital put on. You know, if the hospital came to us right
Well,
now
because
and
the
said,
hospital
"Here's
doesn't
the
think-
building,"
Yeah.
The hospital's
we could
being
take the
negative.
building. We could take the building right now and have it be self-sustaining, and be fine with what we have right now.
But the hospital is being negative, like me, and saying that they don't feel that you have the adequate.
No, I don't think that the
To
hospital
give
is
it-
being negative. The hospital
Well,
has been
I'm
incredibly
being facetious
supportive.
in a way.
The hospital has been incredibly
But
supportive
because
of
they
us
won't
to
give it
ensure.
to you, because they were withholding it, as you said earlier, because they didn't want it to fail.
Right, so they have helped us
So they
along
don't
those lines.
feel, they didn't want to hand you the project and then turn around a couple years later and fail. So they are being cautious.
Mhm.
If it were me doing that, you'd just say it would be negative. That's why I was playing with the wording a bit. But they are being cautious because they don't see it succeeding. As if they did, they would have handed the keys over already. But you admitted yourself that they did not. Because, the exact reason why you said is because they didn't want it to see it turn around a couple years and fail, which means they have that anticipation that it might.
Well, I think that anybody in a huge project like that, in a town like this, is going to, I mean, am I optimistic? Absolutely. I mean, you guys
Yes.
have said that too. You know, in these
You
types
are
of
a great
things,
cheerleader.
you know, these things don't, you can't be successful unless you are optimistic about them. And so we look at that as a benefit that the hospital did allow us to use those month-to-month leases,
Mhm.
because their thing was, you know, we need to ensure that you can have a profitable model
Yeah.
based off of the concerts and movies and things that you're able to do. So we'll do month-to-month leases, build out your schedule, build out your plan. And to be totally honest, you know, when I first met with hospital leadership, it was December 18th of 2019, I believe it was.
So going back 4 years.
Well,
Yeah.
they want it to succeed because
Of course
they
they
really
do.
want this building off their books. That's
Right.
the reality of it.
Yeah.
But if they thought, if they're giving you a month to month because they don't want to hand it to you and then be stuck with a building that's caving in because you blew it.
Right, but what that allowed us to do was build up a bankroll.
Well, I understand
so
that's what
that
that
we
allowed
can-
you to
We
do.
can do that.
But they didn't do it because they felt there was an issue still and they didn't have the confidence to go forward.
Right, so we had to prove to ourselves, because keep in mind too, I'm not somebody that came in and said, hey, you know, I moved down to Baltimore and I ran a couple AMCs and here is my resume to know
Yeah.
how do I get the movie rights, how do I own a building, how do I, you know, because my resume just said I was a teacher and a project manager that manages mostly software development projects. And so, you know, if you look at it from a simplicity of like even just a job interview, is this person fit to run a theater? Well, the answer is no, and I'd be the first person to tell you that too, because there's no background there that
Yeah.
says you can be successful. And so what they did was to give me the opportunity to basically prove that we can be successful, that there is a market for it, and we were able to do that through primarily first grassroots, you know, to build up a group behind that, and to be able to have shows that built, because one of the things we do say is Johnstown's hard because it's like a marketing black hole, because you have a lot of people that, you know, you have to hit traditional media, social media, the newspaper, and then all of those to hit all of that marketing can be very expensive. So how do you strategically go through that to build your base? And with that time, over those 18 months, we have been able to build our base so that when we are able to show a movie, we are able to make announcements of new products or services that are coming in. There is the market to support that so that we can be self-sustaining and be successful. So and I don't fault the hospital for that at all. I
I'm
mean,
not
it's
faulting
a
Now they're mine.
it's a common sense sort of
They're
thing.
erring on
you
the
know?
side of caution.
I don't
Yeah,
I don't
it's-
think I think you're either seeing or denying what you're seeing. but that's okay.
Yeah.
But we are both seeing the same thing, perhaps describing it in different ways.
Sure, that's okay.
It happens.
I want to thank you for allowing us to have this great tour. Joe and I will probably post this in a couple days. Maybe he'll have it done tomorrow. I don't know, probably
I don't have time.
Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll tag you when it is. I think you're my friend on Facebook, right?
I'm sure.
So everyone else, make sure you share the video. Revitalize Johnstown presents a Behind the Tour at the State Theater. Thank you so much, everyone.